If there's a silver lining to the Democrat shutdown deal, it is that Speaker Mike Johnson is forced to undissolve the House of Representatives after 7 straight weeks of recess. And with the House back, Speaker Johnson must swear in Arizona Democratic Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva tomorrow. She says she will provide the 218 signature on a discharge petition to force a vote on releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files, something Johnson has been pretty desperately trying to avoid throughout the shutdown. This all comes as we learn from a whistleblower that the only person involved in Epstein's crimes to ever be convicted of engaging with those crimes is Ghislaine Maxwell, now plans to ask Trump for a commutation after receiving weeks of, quote, concierge-style treatment in prison. Congressman Ro Khanna is a Democrat of California. He and Republican member Thomas Massie filed the discharge petition in September. Congressman Khanna joins me now. Congressman, I guess, one of the things I learned during the course of this is that a discharge petition, people can take their names off it before it hits 218. But once it hits 218, it is locked. And I wondered how much jockeying was happening behind the scenes. Is it your expectation that tomorrow Congresswoman Grijalva gets signed in and it gets to 218?
Yes, but it's not done until it's done. And there's a tremendous amount of White House pressure on a couple of the people, in particular, the Republicans who signed the petition. My expectation is it holds. Adelita Grijalva signs it. And then we have a vote 7 days later. December 3rd is when we're targeting for a vote of the full release of the Epstein files.
How central do you think your efforts to force that vote were in the response of Mike Johnson taking this truly unprecedented step of essentially keeping Congress out for 2 months?
Unfortunately, it was the cause of it. I mean, it pains me because people are going without food stamps, people are going without pay. All of that could have been resolved if he had just had Congress in session, because we would have been paying the troops. We would have been extending SNAP. And here's the dispositive fact, Chris. If it wasn't because of Epstein, he could have still shut down Congress and just sworn in Adelita Grijalva. The fact that he didn't swear her in is the reason that he shut this thing down.
I want to ask you about some of this reporting we've seen about Ghislaine Maxwell. And I have to say, read a lot of news stories every day. My blood pressure stays pretty regulated because there's a lot of bad stuff happening. But the reporting about Maxwell made me pretty personally angry. I mean, this is the original sin of the Jeffrey Epstein saga, is that he was caught preying on girls and was cut a sweetheart deal that allowed him to keep doing. The only person now who has been brought to account for those crimes, Ghislaine Maxwell, was taken out of the prison she was in after she gave an interview to the president's personal lawyer. A waiver had to be signed by the Department of Prison to put her in a minimum security prison, and this is what's happening there. Maxwell has received customized meals personally delivered to her cell, after hours time in a private exercise area, and access to a service puppy. Maxwell was also afforded private meetings with visitors arranged by the warden, complete with snacks. This is Jamie Raskin, your colleague, writing a letter about this to Trump. The deference and servility of Ms. Maxwell have reached such preposterous levels that one of the top officials of the facility has complained he is sick of having to be Maxwell's bitch. What do you make of this reporting?
Well, it doesn't just get your blood boiling, Chris. You know whose blood it got boiling is the survivors, because I was with them in a press conference in front of the Capitol, and I'll be with them with Tom.
This is disturbing and infuriating. Obviously, we covered Ghislaine Maxwell being transferred to Bryan, Texas in this cushy prison camp, minimum security, which was against protocol. And still, against the federal government's protocol, they still do it. Sending her to this prison as a child sex offender, human trafficker, right after she met with the Trump official. And then we get emails from Ghislaine and a whistleblower about how she's not just being treated better because she's in a better prison. She's being treated like an all-star. Now, obviously, the prison system's whacked and horrible and messed up, and the solution to crime is not just the absolute worst place to send someone. But for her to be getting preferential treatment is sickening, I think, would be fair to say. We've heard just the transfer itself, Virginia Giuffre's family saying it's travesty of justice and how clearly there's some deal being made here with the Trump administration. And now Ghislaine, in some emails and a whistleblower that I'll show you, is bragging about how good it is and how she's getting ready to request her clemency.
We are learning new information about how Ghislaine Maxwell is allegedly being treated in prison. The Jeffrey Epstein confidant and convicted sex trafficker is currently serving a 20-year sentence at a minimum security prison camp in Texas, where she was transferred after an interview with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee have just revealed new information from a whistleblower who alleges Maxwell is receiving special favors at this prison camp, including customized meals personally delivered to her cell, after-hours time in a private exercise area, and access to a service puppy. Let's get more on this from MSNBC's Ken Delaney. And Ken, what else are Democrats hearing from this whistleblower?
Good morning, Anna. And it's important to keep in mind that Ghislaine Maxwell already was getting special treatment because she was not eligible to be transferred to this minimum security prison camp in Texas from her low security facility in Florida because she's a sex offender. And when we talked to prison experts about that, they couldn't think of any other time that had ever happened in modern history. But now we're learning that according to whistleblower information that reached House Democrats, she's being waited on hand and foot, as they put it, by staff members of the prison on the orders of the warden, and any staff member or inmate who objects to that, and apparently some have, are being retaliated against. Again, this is according to Jamie Raskin, the ranking Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee. As you said, she's getting those that special treatment about meals delivered to her cell and access to this service puppy.
All right, Donald Trump may genuinely be on the verge of pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. As the government shutdown dominates the headlines, Trump seems to be using this opportunity, that distraction, to enact mass pardons for political reasons. This reads, breaking. A whistleblower tells House Judiciary Democrats that convicted sex offender Ghislaine Maxwell is in the process of seeking a commutation of her 20-year prison sentence from Donald Trump. This comes after, in the middle of the night, Trump pardoned Rudy Giuliani and others who backed efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss. Now, there is a through line between all of these pardons. There is a reason they're all happening in one swoop. Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, and other people who helped Trump for political reasons, helped Trump try to overturn the election results, are being pardoned at a federal level, even though they committed a lot of state crimes. So just know, this doesn't actually help them. It's more symbolic to muddy the waters, but the state cases in Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, the other states where fake electors took place, those are still ongoing. Those are still a go. These are just federal pardons, but he's issuing the pardons. He's using the government shutdown as a distraction to issue pardons for his political friends. That's why this headline was wild. The whistleblower tells House Judiciary Democrats that Ghislaine Maxwell is seeking a commutation. To make matters even worse, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime associate and convicted child sex trafficker, is reportedly being, quote, waited on hand and foot by staff at her minimum security prison camp as she reportedly prepares to ask Donald Trump to commute her sentence. It's getting worse and worse because a few months ago, after the government privately interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell, here's the timeline. Pam Bondi says, the Epstein files are on my desk. I'm looking over the names. We're going to release them. That was in February. Then in May, the FBI sat Trump down and told him, we know this because the FBI said this, they sat Trump down and told him that his name was in the files. Now, we don't know exactly in what regard they were in the files. People on the right claim that it was because he was a whistleblower. I don't believe that. He was best friends with Epstein and sending sexual innuendos, but his name is in the files. Then Elon Musk tweets out, Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files. Then Pam Bondi comes out and says, actually, the list is entirely gone. We don't have the list. Since then, it has been a battle. It has been a struggle. And then Ghislaine Maxwell was privately interviewed. As Micah points out, the government privately interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell for 9 hours. Right after, they quietly moved her to a low-security prison. They moved her from a more high-security prison to a low-security prison that was known for having celebrities who live a more cush.
So if I want to say something, when the host dialogue with Congressman Rouhana was reflected upon, it was the election in Congress. through a mere procedural maneuver that first nowadays majorly issues of accountability and the whole power dynamics getting into somewhat of a conflict has already been revealed. The topic discussed shows the point where the legislative body like retuned and to the chamber considered with the new members soon to come in. So the long stall initiative could possibly get a push toward the favorable side. One vote does not sum it all up, but whether it is a chance to see through the complicated incentives that governance systems at large, when often the timing is an unspoken strategy. One's careful and restrained optimism recording from the introduction, a story appears that is both fresh and characteristic of the struggle in the area of public service, which is still going on. Focusing on the detail of procedural matters, it is essential to mention that discharge petitions are a very uncommon and rare way of getting out of the leadership gridlock. Thus, following the example of the past, they has been using by minority group to promote the cause that were previously overlooked. One signature in the case under discussion might become the trigger that set off a series of events leading the Congress to reveal what they are holding, right? So the stall of legislative measures, it also lead to the public getting more frustrated over the issue of the essential services. This is a case reminding us of the post episodes like the 2013 debt ceiling crisis, when procedurals made the situation last longer, and also distrust in whole process. This is the main question, that what was happened in 2013. The same case was trending on that day. So the whole process developed. The framing of the issue around military personnel payment and support for the Allies Forces program tactics shifts the focus of the debate and take it to the public. So please subscribe to my channel and share my video with your friends and family, and must subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.